Hey, Vintage Chic fans! Remember those days when a simple burger and fries felt like a real treat? When the smell of French fries and the sound of a soda fountain filled the air? And who could forget the iconic uniforms? Those classic looks, from the crisp white outfits of the 1950s to the groovy styles of the 1970s, were more than just work clothes. They were a piece of Americana, a snapshot of a bygone era. Today, we're taking a nostalgic trip down memory lane, exploring the world of vintage fast food uniforms and discovering how these iconic looks captured the spirit of their time. The 1950s were a golden age for the American diner and the burgeoning fast food scene. Uniforms of this era often reflected a sense of crisp efficiency and a touch of wholesome Americana. Think clean lines, bright colors, often white with accents, and practical designs. Politeness and presentation were key, and the uniforms played a big part in conveying that image. Let's take a peek at what our featured chains were sporting back then. In their early days, McDonald's, which was founded in 1940 but really took off in the 50s with Ray Kroc, often saw male employees in simple white shirts, paper hats, sometimes with the Speedy logo, and dark pants. The look was functional and no nonsense, emphasizing efficiency. Burger King, originally Instaburger King in 1953, also leaned towards a clean, somewhat standardized look, though details might have varied in their early franchises. Expect to see similar elements like white shirts and practical headwear, aiming for a clean and efficient service image. Kentucky Fried Chicken, with the iconic Colonel Sanders figurehead, had employees in simple, somewhat traditional attire that might evoke a sense of Southern hospitality. While not a strict uniform in the early days, the association with the Colonel's white suit was already being established in the brand's imagery. Dairy Queen, primarily known for its soft serve, also had staff in clean, simple uniforms, usually white shirts or blouses with aprons, projecting a friendly and approachable image, much like the classic soda fountain or ice cream parlor worker. Howard Johnson's, with its distinctive orange roofs, had a more established sit-down restaurant feel, and their uniforms reflected this. Waitresses often wore neat dresses, sometimes in the brand's signature colors, with aprons, while male staff might wear button-down shirts and ties, conveying a sense of reliable service. Taco Bell, founded later in the 1960s, initially drew inspiration from its Mexican roots. Early uniforms had a slightly more casual feel, with simple shirts and pants in earth tones, hinting at the brand's Southwestern influence, even in its nascent stages. The 1960s brought a wave of change to American culture, and fast food was no exception. As these chains expanded and solidified their identities, uniforms started to become more standardized and brand-conscious. We began to see the introduction of specific color schemes, logos, and materials that aimed to create a consistent and recognizable look across all locations. The emphasis was still on cleanliness and efficiency, but now with a stronger nod to brand identity. McDonald's continued with its clean image, but the uniforms became more standardized across franchises. The paper hats became more ubiquitous, with the Golden Arches logo becoming more prominent. Burger King also moved towards a more unified look, incorporating their brand colors in a more distinct style of hat or shirt. The focus for both was on projecting a family-friendly and efficient experience. KFC continued to leverage the image of Colonel Sanders, and uniforms started to incorporate elements that echoed his iconic white suit, through white shirts and jackets with a more formal feel. Dairy Queen maintained its clean and approachable look and introduced company colors and logos onto shirts and aprons to strengthen brand recognition as they expanded their food offerings beyond just ice cream. Howard Johnson's maintained its established, slightly more formal look, refining the color schemes or introducing more modern fabrics while still retaining its sense of reliable service. Taco Bell, as it grew in popularity in the 60s, was seriously establishing its core brand identity. Their uniforms became more distinctive, incorporating the brand's colors and a style that hinted at their Southwestern theme, moving beyond simple shirts and pants to something more visually identifiable. The 1970s, a decade of bell-bottoms, earth tones, and a more relaxed approach to many things, and fast food uniforms were no exception. We start to see a departure from the crisp, clean lines of the earlier decades, with some chains embracing more casual styles, bolder colors, and even some, shall we say, interesting fabric choices. the emphasis shifted somewhat, with more focus on reflecting the current trends, though cleanliness and brand identity remained all important. McDonald's, while still maintaining a recognizable look, started to incorporate warmer earth tones into their uniforms. The iconic paper hats were still present, but the shirts and pants saw some stylistic updates. Burger King, in their quest to differentiate themselves, experimented with some bolder color combinations and more contemporary silhouettes. There was a budding sense of trying to be hip and relevant to the younger crowd. KFC, while still retaining the Colonel Sanders image, loosened up the uniform code with more comfortable fabrics and slightly less formal styles. Dairy Queen continued with its friendly, approachable vibe, but incorporated some 70s colors and patterns into their uniforms. The emphasis on a welcoming atmosphere remained, but with a touch of the decade's flair. Howard Johnson's, while still aiming for a sense of reliability, updated their uniforms with more contemporary cuts and fabrics. However, they retained their established color scheme to maintain brand recognition. Taco Bell, riding the wave of its popularity, fully embraced a Southwestern-inspired look, with earth-tone shirts with stripes or patterns and even some more casual headwear. The brand's identity was becoming more distinct and visually pronounced. As we move into the 1980s and 1990s, fast food uniforms generally began to shift towards a more standardized and corporate look. Functionality and brand identity became paramount, with less emphasis on reflecting specific fashion trends. We see a lot of easily washable materials, consistent color palettes, and prominent logo placement. McDonald's solidified its recognizable look with brown and yellow, often incorporating polyester blends for durability. Burger King also refined its uniform, focusing on brand colors and a more streamlined style. Both chains emphasized a consistent and professional image. KFC maintained its brand identity with uniforms becoming more standardized, though the Colonel Sanders image remained central. Dairy Queen continued with a friendly approach, with uniforms incorporating more durable materials and consistent branding. The emphasis was on a clean and efficient service. Howard Johnson's, as it declined in prominence, retained its established look for a while, but the focus shifted towards practicality. Taco Bell continued to refine its Southwestern-inspired branding, with uniforms becoming more consistent and recognizable. The emphasis was on a modern and efficient fast food experience. Beyond the overall styles, certain elements of these fast food uniforms became truly iconic, leaving a lasting imprint on American culture. These weren't just clothes, they were symbols of an era, a job, and even a cultural phenomenon. The McDonald's paper hat is perhaps one of the most recognizable fast food uniform pieces. It was simple, functional, and became synonymous with the brand's early emphasis on speed and efficiency. It evokes a sense of 1950s Americana and the rise of the fast food worker as a distinct figure in the service industry. KFC's association with Colonel Sanders' white suit and black string tie created a unique brand identity rooted in Southern tradition. This look, while not always strictly replicated in every employee's uniform, influenced the brand's image and became a powerful symbol of its heritage. In the 1950s and early 60s, drive-in restaurants featured car hops, often young women who would deliver food to customers in their cars. Their uniforms, which could range from simple skirts and blouses to more elaborate outfits, became part of the romanticized image of the American drive-in culture. The earth tones and bold stripes of the 1970s fast food uniforms reflect the broader fashion trends of that decade. While sometimes considered kitschy today, these uniforms capture the era's sense of change and experimentation, and they serve as a nostalgic reminder of the 70s aesthetic. Fast food uniforms, in their own way, contributed to the visual landscape of America. They helped to define the roles of workers, create a sense of belonging, and reinforce brand identity. They've been referenced in pop culture, from movies to Halloween costumes, and they continue to evoke a sense of nostalgia for a simpler time. So, Vintage Chic fans, which of these iconic fast food uniforms brings back the most memories for you? Do you remember the paper hats, the car hops on roller skates, or the bold colors of the 70s? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more dives into vintage style and culture, and tell us what other nostalgic looks you'd love us to explore. Thanks for taking this tasty trip down memory lane with me, and feel free to check out our other vintage fashion videos. Until next time, stay retro and stay hungry for more vintage chic.